comments, Boo. It's all about the IEC responding to the DA's application in front of the Constitutional Court.
That's correct, Kathy, and that's what the IEC is saying in its application. In fact, in this response, they are saying that what the DA is asking for is inappropriate and impermissible in law, and they go further and say that the right to vote is enshrined in the Constitution, as you would know, that with the reopening of the registration this weekend, that also allows for people who would be newly registered to also be on the candidates list, because that's what the law says. So the IEC here is saying in the Constitutional Court that their decision was accepted by most of the parties that are that are part of that elections committee. 10 of those parties agreed with the IEC in their determination to reopen the nomination process for candidates. But Kathy, to talk more about these issues and also the IEC's response to the Constitutional Court, we are joined by Tselane, who comes from the Institute of Election Management Services in Africa. He also, in his previous role, he was a deputy chair of the commissioner at the IEC. Tselane, thank you very much for your time. Now, we know that the Constitutional Court said the IEC can reopen the timetable in cases where it considers them reasonably necessary. And I think that probably will be the issue here, whether it is reasonably necessary to reopen that candidate nomination process. Do you think the IEC made a compelling case in their response?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I think now that the Commission has submitted its papers, it is for the Constitutional Court to make a determination in terms of the arguments that have been presented. There have been two opposing opinions. One that says that the Electoral Commission was not authorized by the ConCourt to open for candidate nomination. The other one, which is the view of the Commission, was that it's got the powers in terms of Section 11 of the Municipal Electoral Act to do so. Now that these two opposing opinions have been presented to the Constitutional Court, it is for the Constitutional Court to be able to look at this and see which one is a misinterpretation of its order. My opinion is still that the issue is not where necessarily possible, but that the fact that the Constitutional Court has said that, notwithstanding the powers that the Electoral Commission has under Section 11 of the Municipal Electoral Act, in itself constrain the Commission's capacity to amend the Constitution, rather the election timetable, as though there was no order that was saying or directing the Commission to make sure that the timetable that it issued on the 4th of August is still applicable.
Now, the part of the argument that the IEC says, it says that it seems that the case is all about politics, given the contestation going to these elections. And also, it makes a point that in the National Party Liaison Committee, where 14 of those parties sit, 10 of them agreed with their determination to reopen the candidate's nomination. Do you think that might be an argument that perhaps sways the court and or assists the IEC in their argument?
Not quite, because I think where the Commission is correct is where it indicates that there are also political statements that have been made about its own credibility, and therefore it's got a duty and responsibility to respond to those allegations. But on the issue of the Party Liaison Committee and how many political parties are supporting a view, that is irrelevant, because the Party Liaison Committee is an advisory body, does not have any decision-making powers. The Commission always listen after consultation with the Party Liaison Committees and takes its own decisions that it believes that it is empowered to take in terms of the Constitution, as well as in terms of the Electoral Commission Act.
Sure.
So the fact that so many political parties are supporting a particular view really becomes irrelevant because, as I've said, party liaison committees are just advisory structures of the Commission.
Sure, and as we have said, it's now up to the Constitutional Court to make a determination in this case. But part of I want us to deal partly with the argument that the DA made. The DA says in its papers that if the IEC wanted to reopen the nomination process for candidates, they could have done it narrowly in that those people who are only getting on the voters' roll this weekend allow for those who wish, if any of those people wish to be candidates or nominated as candidates, only open up for them to register as candidates. Do you find that argument convincing? Can you argue then to open narrowly and actually disenfranchise other voters, which is what the IEC is arguing here?
Well, I think it takes us back to the same argument that we've been going through for quite a number of days now on the interpretation of what that Constitutional Court judgment or order actually says. Because, as I've indicated, the issue of the interpretation or misinterpretation of that order is the one at the crux of this issue. What the DA basically is saying is that the Commission, even though it read and it has the powers in terms of the Electoral Commission Act or the election timetable to amend the election timetable, it shall appear that its power have actually been limited by the fact that the Constitutional Court has said that, notwithstanding the fact that it has those powers, it must still abide by the provisions of the election timetable that it issued on the 4th of August.
Sure. Tselane is with the Institute of Election Management Services in Africa. Thank you very much for your time. As you've heard there, Kathy, it's up to the Constitutional Court to make that determination whether the decision of the IEC to reopen the nomination process was, as they say, reasonably necessary. And that's all that we had for you today.